Today we're gonna make Brasato al Barolo. Here are all the ingredients. Let's get into it right now. Okay, Brasato al Barolo. It's a traditional dish of the Piedmont area of Italy. That's where Barolo comes from. Barolo is a very expensive wine. I do have a Barolo here, and my guess this is a $50, $60, maybe an $80 bottle. I do not recommend you make a real Brasato al Barolo. This channel will never do that to you. I try to make things as affordable as possible while keeping the flavor. So what we did was we went to Piedmont in our liquor store here in Long Island, and we got a bottle of Barbera, which is from the same exact area of Italy. But you don't have to stay in that area. You can go east, you can get a Valpolicella, you can go south, you can get Chianti, you can go to another country, you could do a Cabernet, you could do a Burgundy. Just use a dry red wine. What we did with that wine is I poured it over this brisket, marinated it overnight. And this is a 6-pound brisket, but you can use a 4-pound brisket, you can use a 5-pound, you can use a 13-pound, but it will take a lot longer to do your full braise. So in addition to that, I put in 2 more cups of beef stock just to try to raise the liquid a little bit. A lot of recipes online will use 2 bottles of Barolo, which it just gets insanely expensive. I say you go with 1 dry red wine and then you make up a little bit more with beef stock. A lot more affordable that way. We have 1 large onion that I diced. We have 2 large carrots that I diced, and we have 3 celery ribs that are diced. We also have 4, 5, use 8 if you want, cloves of garlic minced. And then we made a sachet. What is in there? We have 3 cloves, 3 sprigs of rosemary, large sprigs I use, 10 large sage leaves, 3 dry bay leaves. If you have fresh, that would be even better, 10 juniper berries, and 1 large cinnamon stick. So I put it all in there, wrapped it up with my cheesecloth, and tied it. I just don't want it to come out, but I wanted it to flavor this. This all went in the fridge for 24 hours. I turned it every 8 hours. I've had it out of the fridge for over an hour, just sitting here, okay? But let's go over the rest of the ingredients. 2 tablespoons of butter. This is gonna be to finish the sauce. This is flour, it's a 1/2 cup, but you don't have to be exact with it. We're just gonna use that to coat our beef, because after we dry it now, it's not gonna get a good sear unless we do that. I have more beef stock here. I just have 4 cups. We're not gonna need all of that. It's just for our braising liquid. Recipe calls for a 1/4 cup. I think I got 6 ounces there of pancetta. Okay, I'm just gonna dice that up. And then I have Marsala wine. So this is a 1/4 cup of dry Marsala. I'm just using this brand, which is very inexpensive, okay? It's like a $10 bottle in the store. Dry Marsala is fine. You could use sweet Marsala. To my taste buds, they don't taste that different when I cook with them. And that's gonna kind of finish it up when we make that delicious sauce at the end. Some people will use cognac too for that, so you can use either or. Let's get into searing the beef right now. All right, so you're gonna get a little messy here, unless you have like a really massive cutting board, which I don't. Get in here and just move all of your celery, carrots, everything out of the way. So just like knock off everything that you can. We want to save all of this liquid, but we need to separate the vegetables, and we want to separate this too, okay? That's our sachet. Now, brisket, you want to cook normally, and this is debatable, most of the time, cook it fat side up. The fat's gonna just drip down, keep it moist. You can remove some of this though, this excess stuff that's hanging, okay? It's very hard to tie this up to try to get it to all be the same thickness. My experience here is if you braise it correctly and you braise it at the temperature we're gonna do and you keep it covered, you're gonna be fine. What I do wanna do here though is dry this off very well. You won't be able to get color on it if it's filled with a lot of liquid. I did take off a little bit of fat on this one side here. There was a lot more fat over here. You don't have to though, you can defat it at the end. The amount of salt you're gonna use here is gonna be dependent on the weight that you're cooking with, all right? So a general rule of thumb, about 1 teaspoon per pound of meat, though you could go a little bit less. I'm using Diamond kosher salt now. I don't know if I'm making the full switch or not, but Tara went to get salt the other day and they didn't have the Mortons. I actually really like the feel of this. It's been a long time since I used it. It's like very powdery almost. About 1 teaspoon I just sprinkled. That's about 2.5 there. Nice amount of pepper. If you missed any spots, go back. We're gonna use homemade stock here, so there'll be no salt in our stock. If you're starting with salted stuff, especially the better than bouillon that says reduced sodium, your dish is gonna be ruined. That stuff is extremely salty. It's awesome to cook with, but once you try to reduce it, it's not good. If you're using Diamond kosher salt, which I'm using now, you can use double the amount of your regular table salt. If you're using Morton's, it would be 50% more. Okay, I have parchment paper lined baking sheet here. I have another baking sheet with my flour. I have a large brisket. I'm gonna put it in the flour completely on one side, do the other side. Just get it all in there. It's gonna just dry it out. It's gonna help us get a little bit better sear than if we didn't do this. So what I wanna do now is I really wanna pat it all off, okay? And then put it in your parchment paper lined baking sheet. Okay, so I'm gonna strain this out here as best I can without making a mess. Here is my reserved wine and the beef stock. We need this, and we need those vegetables, and we need our sachet. Same pan I used. You need a big pan here, so I'm gonna heat this up to medium heat. This is stainless steel that I dried off completely. Really, I would be better using my stove over there with a double burner. If you have a double burner, I'm trying to concentrate this in the middle here. Okay, I'm putting just a couple tablespoons of oil, and then I'm gonna put the pancetta in. Just try to break it up if you can. This was sliced fairly thin from the deli. We're gonna let this go until most of the fat is rendered. We're gonna use that fat to sear our beef. This took about 7 minutes here. Take it out onto a paper towel lined plate. We're gonna put this down. We're gonna do both sides. We just wanna get some color on it here. Doing it in the pancetta fat. It's gonna take about 15 minutes to do this whole process. This is huge. If you don't have something like this and you wanna do it, you can cut it into two here. And then you can put them back into an oven-safe baking dish. Like something like this, you could put it into. Do your vegetables, deglaze, everything, then you could put it in there to do it, all right? So I'm just trying to give you another option here. So this is very hard to turn over here. Maybe use like one of these huge ones. Okay, not so good color there, but it's still pretty good. It's gonna start curling up here, so you can maybe like force it down with like a cast iron pan or something. So that was the non-fat side. Now we're gonna be doing the fat side. Probably should have done the fat side first. Just keep it on the side here. Pan's okay there, but it is nice and brown. Gonna put in all the vegetables. Still have a lot of that remaining liquid. So that's essentially gonna deglaze this right away now. Got my heat about 5 out of 10. Cook these until they get soft and a little bit of color on them. Sprinkle salt to help them release more of their water. By the way, set your oven to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. Rack in the middle. We want to cook it to about 195 to 200 degrees. That's like where brisket is really good, nice and tender. So since this is gonna braise so long, we're gonna get our liquid in now and bring it to a boil so we can remove most of it like this, but there's still a lot stuck down here. So right now you can turn your heat up to high and pour your liquid in. This is all the reserved liquid. This is a full bottle of wine here that we marinated beef in and an extra 2 cups of stock. I have more stock over here, another 4 cups. We'll use a little bit more if we need to after we put the beef back in here. As this comes to a boil, we want to scrape up all of our ground bits from the bottom. So this is like the best thing to do here is use a flat edge spoon like this, because that will allow you to remove a lot more than if you had a round spoon. So it's boiling now. As it's going, I'm going like this. I can feel there's no resistance on my spoon. So this is good here. You can turn it off and remove this from the heat. You could put a tiny touch of salt now. And that is very strong wine flavor, which is great. Touch of salt. Let's get our brisket fat side up in here, okay? Okay, if there's any excess juices, you can pour it in. There's not much. You can put all the pancetta back in there. Get the sachet, put that back in here. You don't need to cover this. You just want to have enough liquid in here. Even this much would be fine. I'm going to put in like another cup right now. Okay, there's so many reasons to go to Costco. This is reason number 500. Foil, good foil. Before we do that, I got to put the thermometer in there. If you don't have one of these, after 45 minutes per pound at 300 degrees, covered, then you check it for tenderness. Stick this in here. We want to get it right into the meat part, right about the middle level. 1 piece of foil, do a 2nd piece of foil. We actually just talked about the whole Costco's having a $4,500 deal on a 157-piece set of Le Creuset. Spoiler, I don't think you should buy it. This is well covered. We want to cook this until it gets to 195 degrees. We'll be back when it's dark out. It's been 4 hours exactly. My thermometer right here, this internal one, is saying 210. It was saying 190 probably after 2 hours, which there's no way a brisket, a 6-pound brisket, is gonna cook 195, 200 degrees in that amount of time. I find in the oven, you gotta always go by feel. How do you know if it's tender? You know, you can take a fork in there, you can start trying to rip it apart, but really, if you get resistance now when you're putting in this thermometer, it's not done yet, okay? So I'm going through very nice and smooth through. Okay, nice and smooth again through. Okay, and then this is telling me it's 210. I want to show you this. See this, how I can start, see how it's pulling apart a little bit there? A little flaky. That's the top part. Now the bottom part here, this is a little bit more tough, but it's still pretty tender. I think we're good right now, like this. We're gonna keep this covered for another 30 minutes outside of the oven. And then carefully, probably put your gloves on to be safe or something because it's very hot still. Let's cover it all back up. Okay, this is gonna allow it to reabsorb some juices. That's 30 minutes there. We're gonna remove this very gently because it's very tender. It's gonna fall apart. Okay, use that foil that you had from before and then just cover it. It's gonna keep it over there off to the side. Now, your sachet, remove it out of here. Ton of fat here, so much fat. Now you can go like this and just skim, okay? See what I'm doing here? That gets a lot of the fat, but it also gets some of the other stuff. Or you can just go like this. You know, you guys, a lot of people get very mad when I do this. We got a big pot, it's just easier. We're gonna boil it. I can grab the handles now because it's been sitting long enough. Just get it all in here. We're left with, I don't know, 4 cups we got here, 5. And it's very thin, so we wanna power reduce this. And remember, you can do all this the day before. You can make your sauce, you can blend it, everything. Before you do anything here, taste this, all right? We gotta taste this. You gotta check for salt. Not too salty, so we will be able to reduce it. Before you even wanna go that step, you can blend it. I got my great tool here, which is my cordless immersion blender. I have it linked below here. You know, I don't really do the affiliate link stuff, but for this one, I think you should really buy it. And that was only a minute of the immersion blender. There's still loose carrots in here. Okay, look at that now. Let's do another minute. I'm gonna heat it up. I'm gonna reduce it a little bit, get it thicker. I can do that because it's not overly salty. Let's just take our clean spoon right now, like this. Put it in here. This is where we're at right now, just like that. If we go down to about there, we're reducing by about 1/3. All the way there would be 1/2. It's fairly thick enough right now where we're not gonna have to go for 1/2 thickness. This is good. I did it for like 3 minutes. It's fine. The consistency fine for me. If you wanna have a lot of sauce, a lot of gravy, don't go crazy. Just blend your vegetables, a couple minutes. This is a 1/4 cup of marsala. We're gonna start with that. If we don't have enough of the taste we want, we'll just add more. Like, we'll do another 1/4 cup. Okay, and then I got butter. I got 2 tablespoons of butter in here. Just add a little bit to the richness. You don't need any salt, all right? I'm gonna put pepper in here. I think I might need a little bit more marsala though. I'm doing like almost another 1/4 cup. Here is our masterpiece, our 6-pound brisket. Let's steel your knife, okay? This is a flat brisket, you know, brisket flat, it's called. The grain all runs in one direction. Cut it this way, I'm cutting against the grain, which is gonna make a more tender bite. So we will take right from here a slice. Yeah, and it's very, very falling apart already. So I think we're gonna have to go from the other side. Much easier to do this if you put it in the fridge and it gets cold. If I just pull this, it's gonna rip apart. Now a lot of this is fat here. There's a little bit of meat left on top. So that's up to the person eating it. They can remove it or you can remove it all for them before you serve it. So you witnessed me over the last 7 hours making this.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a lot of work, but it doesn't have to be a lot of work for you. You can do that day 1 marinade, day 2 you make it, and let me show you what day 3 is. So I just cut Tara 2 pieces right now. I removed the fat for her. She doesn't want to eat that, and most of you aren't going to want to. It's too much fat. And then I wrapped it in here. Okay, so it's warm right now. It's going to keep it really moist. And put foil around this now. Stick it in your fridge overnight. Tomorrow morning, you will be able to get thinner slices because it's solidified, but it will be super tender. Then you have all your sauce, lay it all in the baking dish, put all your slices down the sauce, put it in the oven, covered till it's warm. It'll be delicious, but hopefully this will be delicious too, Tara.
I know there was an entire bottle of wine, but it has a really subtle wine flavor.
Barbera.
Very, very mild. Mellow, I guess I would say. It's really so good. This is restaurant quality.
Polenta, I've done a few times. That's why I didn't make it now. We have a recipe on our site. It's just creamy polenta. Polenta is super simple to make. What do you give it, Tara?
Okay, so I'm starting to use the beef bourguignon as my gold standard. That was a 10. I'm gonna give this a 9.5.
What would have made it better?
Okay, so I think the thing that I am like kind of missing that I love so much about the beef bourguignon is the variety of textures. Like I know you blended the sauce. I know that's the way it's supposed to be made. Maybe if you left some, see, like here's a carrot chunk, like that, you know, that didn't get blended. So maybe if there was a little bit more texture, like maybe chunks of carrots.
I kind of agree with you. I tried to stay really traditional here.
Really good, love the flavor. I would personally like a little more texture. That's why I'm knocking off the half a point.
Okay, well, I will take it.
Okay.
We'll see you next time. I mean, super tender, right?
Yeah, it's really good.